Then I need to get busy with the business of actually writing the essay. And my first step is to write an introduction to the essay, and an introduction which clearly introduces what the essay is about. Now, when writing an introduction, consider that introduction as being useful to both you and the reader. The introduction should help you to clarify what you need to focus on in the essay. Again, it gives you some reassurance that you're on the right track, that you know what you're doing, you're putting the foundation stone in place. The introduction also tells the reader what the essay is going to be about and how your essay will develop. So perhaps you should try to include certain key words in your introduction that link up to paragraphs that are going to come later in your essay. Again, your introduction should be clear and concise. Don't ramble on for half a page. Okay? It's not meant to be too detailed. It's not meant to be too long. If you find yourself getting into the nitty-gritty of analysis, okay, you should have included a paragraph break earlier on. Here is a topic, and if you have a look at the whiteboard for the moment, I'm going to show you how I would go about looking at the content words and the instruction words. Here I have it in front of me. Is the madness in Hamlet real or a pretense? Straightforward question. Instruction: discuss this question with reference to scenes and characters in the play. This is a bit simpler, I think, than the wording of the previous one, but first of all, I'm going to look for some keywords or content words. Okay, madness is clearly a key word. We might overlook it, but the name of the play, okay, is obviously crucial. And then I've got real and pretense, and clearly those two words contrast with each other. Is it genuine, okay, or is he pretending? Madness. Discuss this question with reference to scenes and characters in the play. So I've been given specific guidance there as to where to focus. If I look at my instruction words, I've got this one over here, discuss, which is quite general and broad. It gives me ample scope to explore the question, and an instruction to refer, to make sure that in the course of this essay I look at both scenes and characters in the play. Coming back to an example of an introduction I have here. Madness is an important theme to consider in William Shakespeare's tragedy Hamlet. It is of great relevance in relation to certain characters, such as Hamlet and Ophelia, and key scenes in the play. The question arises, however, as to whether the madness in this play is real or simply a pretense and appearance of insanity. Now, that is an example of an introduction, and you can see in various ways how it links back to the topic. Hamlet and Ophelia are mentioned as two characters, and the question of whether it is real or not is also suggested. Writing the essay, you need to then move on to the body of your essay, and the body of your essay will be made up of several paragraphs. Don't think of it as one long paragraph just because we use the word body, right? It is divided into several paragraphs, and it is very annoying for teachers and examiners when they need to read an essay that has been written for marks, and it's incredibly off-putting just to see a whole page without paragraph breaks. And it might, let's say, dispose the marker against you. Hopefully they are professional enough to ignore that, but it's not going to do you any favors. So form each paragraph around one of the main points that you wish to focus on. State the point clearly. Use a topic sentence. That is usually a short, clear statement, usually at the beginning of a paragraph, that indicates to the reader what the main point of this paragraph is going to be. Then support the point with relevant evidence from the play and go into more detail where relevant. Now you need to start arranging your paragraphs in logical order, and hopefully you've done some of this planning beforehand in your rough work. So you think, okay, I've done that, that's paragraph 1, now I can move on to my next point of argument in paragraph 2, and so forth. You may express opinion, but remember that you also need to substantiate opinion with reference to the text, and you need to avoid saying, I think, I feel, in my opinion, and so forth. And please write in the present tense. Okay, treat the actions or the events of the play as if they are ever present, and be consistent in that. Even if you make the mistake of writing in the past, be consistent with that. Don't chop and change back and forth between the present and the past. But full marks for writing in the present tense and sticking to that in the way that you narrate the events of the play. What to avoid? Please avoid retelling the story. This is a clear sign that the person does not really understand the topic or what they need to focus on. And in the absence of being able to present an interpretation or an argument, they're lapsing back into storytelling. That's not the point of the essay. And the examiner knows the story well enough and hopes that you do too, but it's not your job to tell the whole story. Don't write about the film version of the play. That's not relevant to your assignment either. Your focus is the play and not the film. In fact, the film can become a source of confusion to you. Right? So if you have watched the film or various versions of the film, go back to the play and make sure that the play is clear in your mind. It may also suggest to the examiner that you haven't read the book or read the play. Avoid padding and waffling. Padding is when you make something look bigger, you puff it up, all right? And waffling is when you go off on the wrong track or on stuff that is vague and not relevant. So avoid irrelevant material and avoid too much material, and keep the word limit in mind. Remember again to write, that's something to avoid, writing in the first person. Here is an example. I'm going to skip through this, but it is an example of a paragraph from an essay, and there's a topic sentence there: Hamlet's madness, according to him, is not real madness. Conclusion, before the conclusion, the logical transition, so you need to be able to move smoothly from one paragraph to another. And words like in addition, furthermore, however, firstly, secondly, similarly, thus, etc., those can help give a kind of a glue, in a sense, cohesion to your essay. So become familiar with using words such as those. When you write your conclusion, you are recapping your argument. You are putting it in a nutshell, the main points that you have made in the course of your essay. It is not a time to introduce new information. You're not going for a climax. You're not going for a dramatic effect, so avoid that. And don't end your essay with a rhetorical question, please. Try to find a suitable, strong statement that is relevant to what you have said to conclude your essay. Again, here is an example of a conclusion, but given our time at the moment, I'm not going to read through all of this. You don't have to start with words like in conclusion or to conclude, but that is a possible way of starting the final paragraph. A checklist for at the end. You need to set aside some time, hopefully, to reread and to edit and polish your essay. Check that you have always underlined or put in inverted commas the title of the play. Check that you've got the spelling of names and places correct and that you've used the right terminology. You're referring to the audience, not the reader in this case. You're referring to scenes and acts. Remove anything that's vague, and also when you read it something for the second or the third time, something that's ambiguous might jump out at you, so try to remove any ambiguity. Avoid slang, like referring to the ghost as Hamlet's old man, for example, and colloquialisms. And avoid putting yourself in the foreground with I think and I feel. Remember, the style in which you're writing is formal and academic. It's not personal and it's not emotive. Finally, let me say here, take the time to improve your work. So this comes back to time management and planning, because taking that time, either in the preparation or in the revision of your work, will help you improve your mark. Well, that's all from my side, Linda. Is there anything you would like to add there?
Just a couple of things to add. On the front of the exam paper, I did say this in an earlier presentation, but the DBE is no longer putting the numbers of the questions on the front of the answer book for you to circle your choices. You are required to write the questions that you have answered on the front cover. Please do that accurately. It does cause confusion for checkers and markers when it's not done. Then on your question paper, there are some guidelines as to the time that you can spend on a particular question. So they allocate a suggested 40 minutes for the poetry and then 55 minutes for the drama and the novel. So in your preparation, you can perhaps practice what Mr. Geordie has said and practice getting your essay in to that time frame, that 55 minutes. But we would like to wish you all the very best and hope that you have benefited from this presentation. A very good afternoon to you all.
Good afternoon.